The views expressed on the following broadcasts do not necessarily reflect those of KHLT, Take 12 Radio, or our affiliates. The opinions on this show should not be considered as medical, psychological, or professional advice and are those of the host, co-host, and guest. Take 12 Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting are not affiliated with any particular 12-step fellowship. Now here are your co-hosts, Marv R., Bruce H., and the Monty Man.
And that's Bruce on the piano. Marv on the violin. Well, welcome to the great reality here at TakeTalkRadio.com on your internet dial with Marv and Bruce and myself. And this week we're going to be talking about the promises associated with Step 2. Now, I want to make it clear to the listeners that these aren't necessarily promises that come true as a result of Step 2. These are promises that are associated with Step 2. There is a difference. When we get into the 9th step promises, those are promises that come true as a result of the 9th steps. There's a subtle difference there. But we're going to be talking about these promises that are associated with the 2nd step. Before we get into that, though, here's some, I don't have any theme music for Recovery News and Focus this week, but I thought these, a couple of interesting stories here. Have you guys heard of Flakka?
Nope.
Flakka? I hadn't heard of it either. But yet again, we're creating more designer drugs for
oh boy,
the enjoyment of our nation.
I've heard of Flicka.
You've heard of Flicka? Well, I should have known better. Right?
Yeah.
My horse Flicka, to be specific, right? Was that a black stallion? Was that what that was?
I don't remember.
Oh.
I'm just being a smart aleck.
One of my favorite movies was The Black Stallion, Walt Disney, years ago. Mm-hmm. Cried my eyes out.
Never heard of it.
Is that your phrase this week? Never heard of it? Well,
I'm just being a jerk.
Yeah, you're just. Yeah, we were just informed that Bruce was a jerk today. All right. Well, it's a new designer drug that is showing up across South Florida. Once again, South Florida is in the news. With designer drugs and chemicals and different legal aspects of drug abuse, Florida is a mess. It's called Flakka, and it is extremely dangerous, of course. Investigators with the Broward Sheriff's Office said Flakka is a synthetic drug similar to bath salts. Did you guys hear about the bath salt craze?
Yes.
Yeah. People going in and buying bath salts and, smoking it. And it can produce dangerous hallucinations and cause serious medical problems. Sergeant Ted Terrenu of Broward Sheriff's Office said deputies are seeing increasing amounts of Flakka on the streets and fear it could be the hot new drug of choice. He says Flakka, also known as gravel, or by its scientific name, alpha PVP, is especially dangerous because of what users don't know about it. You got no idea what's in it when you take it. He says it's whatever the person puts in it that sells it to you. Experts said the drug, which looks like crystals, usually comes in gel caps and is smoked, injected, or ingested. And if a user takes too much of it, it could cause lifelong kidney problems that are not reversible, heart problems, paranoia, and have other potentially deadly side effects. Jim Hall is an epidemiologist and sits on the United Way of Broward County's Commission on Substance Abuse. He said another dangerous side effect of Flakka is called excited delirium. The body temperature rises to an intense level. The person becomes psychotic, often runs out into the street, tearing off their clothes, and becoming extremely violent. Hall said Flakka is popular among the 18 to 30-year crowd and is big in the club scene. He compares it to its rise to the rise of ecstasy in the 1990s and even Molly just a few years ago. He says Flakka is actually even more dangerous. We've had seizures of Flakka in South Florida that have turned out to be combinations of cocaine plus methamphetamine plus heroin which is the addiction on steroids. Hall said the statistics on flakka are alarming. He says in 2013 there was less than 60 cases of flakka that showed up in Florida. By 2014, the number had risen to more than 670. Experts said part of the problem with synthetic drugs like flakka, bath salts, and spice is that the drug makers tweak the chemical makeup to skirt existing laws. I thought that was kind of humorous. Existing laws? Is there existing laws that permit this stuff?
You know, the sad thing about that is when he was reading it, I was sitting here thinking, you tell that, and the general public might not understand this, but you tell that same thing or read that same thing to an addict, and you know what he's going to tell you? I want to try that.
Oh, yeah, something new.
See?
New brand.
And
yeah.
that what you just read is terrifying.
It is terrifying.
And yet you read it to an addict, he'll say, well, I'll try some of that.
Yeah.
Hey, can you get me any of that?
Yeah.
See, and that's mind-boggling.
It is, isn't it?
To have a person's brain where they're in such a state that they'll say something.
They just
like
default
that.
to that. Well, here's one. You'll love this. You may have heard of this already. Have you guys heard about powdered alcohol?
I haven't.
Have you heard about powdered alcohol?
No, I haven't.
The idea's been running around for a bit, and I know some of our listeners have heard of this. Well, after a battle that dragged on for almost a year, the makers of Palcohol, powdered alcohol, finally earned their approval from the federal government. Soon, much of America will be able to make a cocktail as quickly as Kool-Aid. If you'll recall, last spring, the story of a sketchy new substance that could turn any liquid into an adult beverage quickly went viral. Some readers got excited by the prospect. Many more feared potential abuse. The Alcohol, Tobacco Tax and Trade Bureau quickly rescinded label approval for the company and stopped it from being sold in the United States. That's all changed, as Palcohol founder Mark Phillips just announced that he got the green light to kickstart his production facility so that the powder may be available as early as this summer. Before you start dreaming of dancing in pina colada clouds, know that a handful of states, Alaska, Delaware, Louisiana, South Carolina, and Vermont, have already banned the instant spirits. Several others, Colorado, Iowa, Minnesota, Ohio, and New York, are considering similar restrictions. So just because it's approved on a national level doesn't mean the states, have to recognize it as legal. Phillips is standing firm, saying there is no reason to ban powdered alcohol. The two federal agencies that have jurisdiction over alcohol found no problems with allowing it to go forward for sale. Even if he can't overcome state bans on selling it for consumption, Phillips may push it forward in a different formulation for users, such as antiseptic, windshield wiper fluid mix, and even as a fuel source. And just think, in other states, you can be drinking it. In other words, he'll sell it under another label. That way the states have to approve it. The battle over Palcohol will certainly continue, but chances are it will be available for purchase somewhere in the United States in the very near future. Until then, we'll leave it to you to decide if the company may need to rethink its branding. The website features a photo of a happy couple drinking beverages presumably made with Palcohol, right next to a photo of someone pouring what must be a Palcohol-enriched washer fluid into their car. They might want to consider at least putting those on different sections of the site. So there you go, Palcohol. You can now put it in a little baggie, take it with you into concerts, and just pour it into your water. And now you have your alcohol. Just wonderful, isn't it?
I'm wondering what's going on that we can do those things, that we can get approval from the government to start something like that up.
It's the dumbing down of America, my friends.
Not only is it probably going to be dangerous because of what it does, but the addiction that it brings in. What about the stuff that he's putting in it? There's really no control over that.
Yeah. So you get these drug dealers get a hold of the powder. What are they going to add to it? Lord have mercy. Lord have mercy. Well, listen, we're going to take our first break. When we come back, let's have a little bit of fun, shall we? with a little Take 12 trivia. Oh, my gosh. Don't go away.
Foundations Recovery Network invites you to attend Innovations in Recovery, March 30th through April 2nd, 2015, at the prestigious Hotel del Coronado in San Diego, California. Innovations in Recovery is about the discovery and discussion of effective solutions for professionals and their patients. Professionals will learn best practices for treating co-occurring addiction and mental health disorders, process addictions, unconventional and unwilling populations, and how to facilitate a framework for the long-term recovery of their patients. To register for the Innovations in Recovery Conference, visit www.foundationsevents.com.
Serenity Springs Recovery Center, located on the beautiful east coast of Florida. A unique facility that is committed to providing exceptional individual care in small group settings while utilizing their experienced and dedicated clinical and support staff of licensed therapists and doctors. Visit their website, serenityspringsrecovery.com, or call 386-423-4540. Serenity Springs, making a life-changing investment into your recovery.
Well, zippity-doo-dah and zippity-yay. It's time for our favorite part of the show that Marv and Bruce just really, really dig. And that's Take 12 Trivia!
That's right, it's Take 12 Trivia, brought to you this week by Freedom Interventions. FreedomInterventions.com is the website. If you got a friend or family member that is in need of an intervention, give Matt Brown a call there at Freedom Interventions. He's out of McMinnville, Oregon, but he works internationally. All right. Thank you, Cecil, for that introduction. All right, this week, Take 12 Trivia is soft drinks. Soft drinks. Not hard drinks. Soft drinks.
What do I know about soft drinks?
I don't know. We'll find out. No powdered soft drinks here either. Although, I guess they made that with Kool-Aid, right? Kind of, sort of.
Sure.
Yeah. All right. Trivia question number 1. What is the oldest soft drink in America? Here are your choices. Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper, 7-Up, or root beer?
Coca-Cola.
Bruce says Coca-Cola. What do you say, Marv?
Root beer.
I say root beer. Well, let's see here. Yeah, that's laughable.
Thanks a lot.
Well, first sold in 1885 at Morrison Old Corner Drugstore in Waco, Texas. Dr. Pepper is the oldest soft drink in America. It was soon followed by Coca-Cola in 86, Pepsi-Cola in 98, and IBC root beer in 1919. 7-Up in 1929, and Sprite in 1961.
So I was close.
Yeah, but you're still running second.
Oh, it's not. It's not horseshoes. Okay. I'm sorry.
Okay. Excuse me. Okay, trivia question number 2. What soft drink?
I thought I had a leaner.
A leaner?
You know what a leaner is?
No, on horseshoes, right? You bet.
I had a leaner.
What soft drink was originally invented for use as a mixer with whiskey? Here are your choices. Mr. Pibb, Coca-Cola, Sprite, or Mountain Dew?
My goodness. First one that was made for that.
For that purpose, yes. It was created. That was its original purpose when it was created. Think about it. Mr. Pibb, Coca-Cola, Sprite, or Mountain Dew?
Oh, Sprite.
What do you think, Brucey?
Well, I don't know. I'm going to go along with Marv up Sprite.
On Sprite? Well, let's see here. Let's see what the answer to that
Probably
one is.
Mr. Pip.
Yeah, no, you guys are wrong again.
Don't tell me it was Mr. Pip.
Well, born in the hills of Tennessee in 1940s, Mountain Dew was originally invented by two brothers, Barney and Allie Hartman, for the use as a mixer with whiskey. Mountain Dew is actually slang for moonshine. And some of the early bottles were even adorned with sketches of a character called Willie the Hillbilly.
Well, I know this, that people that drink that stuff, boy, they drink it.
They do drink it, don't they?
Yeah.
Gobble it down. Okay, number 3. What was the first soft drink to be consumed in outer space?
Oh, God.
I knew Bruce was going to do that. Was it Pepsi, Coca-Cola, Dr. Pepper, or Sprite?
Pepsi Cola. I've just got to go with Pepsi.
You going to go with Pepsi?
I was thinking Pepsi.
Yeah.
What do I know?
Yeah.
Here we go, Barb.
Actually, in July 1985, Coca-Cola became the first drink consumed in outer space. It was enjoyed by astronauts aboard the Space Shuttle Challenger, who sipped the soda from a specifically designed space can.
Huh.
Yeah, Coca-Cola was. All right, here's your bonus question. Let's see if you can redeem yourself. Now, listen to this question very carefully.
But you do that, and I always get it wrong. So
I know. Well,
don't embarrass me.
Think about this now. Think about it. What soft drink was developed as an alternative to alcoholic beverages during Prohibition? Here are your choices: Sprite, IBC root beer, Tab, or Coca-Cola. It was an alternative to alcoholic beverages during Prohibition. Sprite, root beer, Tab, or Coke. Think about the question.
Root beer.
Okay, Marv?
Root beer.
You guys would be correct. It was indeed root beer. It was developed in 1919 by the Independent Breweries Company in St. Louis as an alternative to alcoholic beverages during Prohibition, called root beer. Here you go.
Yeah!
And that is Take 12 Trivia for this week. Root beer. All right, we'll be right back.
Origins Recovery Centers provides integrated inpatient treatment for substance abuse and co-occurring disorders. At Origins, clients receive expert medical, clinical, and spiritual care individually designed for their needs. Our clients leave Origins with the foundation upon which they will build the rest of their lives. Call now to speak with an admissions specialist. Our toll-free number is 888-843-8935. That's 888-843-8935. Origins, delivering real solutions for real families.
Hello there. This is the Monty Man from Take 12 Radio. You know, men, women, and their families experience tremendous pain and suffering due to the struggles they face from substance abuse and its co-occurring mental health challenges. They need to find a safe place for peace and healing. Well, Therapia Addiction Healing Center was born out of a deep desire to provide that safe and powerful healing environment. Therapia is a Greek word for healing. Traditionally, classic Greek medicine was holistic. It viewed the mind and body as one. At Therapia Addiction Healing Center, they have developed a holistic healing approach to treating addiction that is designed to bring into balance the mind, body, and the spirit. Therapia Addiction Healing Center, helping people recover from addictions by developing and maintaining healthy, meaningful relationships with God, self, and others. Okay, we're back. had to come in for a landing there. Okay, before we do this, I'm going to put a poll out there for you guys, and the person that sends in email number 5, the 5th email I get, and it'll be timestamped, so I'll be able to tell who that is. The email address, let me give that to you first, is take12radio@comcast.net. That's TAKE, the number 12, radio@comcast.net. Now, here's my question. You know, I'm not going to expound on this any more than just to ask the question. Do you think that the broadcasts that you've heard on Take 12 Radio are too hardline, 12-step recovery, or are we too soft? Are we too hardline, or are we too soft? So whatever your answer is, Email number 5 is I'm going to send you the brand new reprinted copy of the first edition of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous. I will send that to you in the mail. So when you email me, make sure that you include your mailing address. Otherwise, where am I going to send it? Send me your mailing address, and we'll announce the winner on the air next week. Are we too hardline or are we too soft? All right, we'll leave it at that. All right, the promises associated with the second step. What does step 2 say, Bruce? What's it read?
Came to believe in a power greater than ourselves that could restore us to sanity.
Okay. So when we're talking about the promises that are associated with this step, we're not saying that they are necessarily going to come true if you do this step. These are just promises associated in the writings in the Big Book on this step. And I was going to actually introduce number 1, but I think I'm going to let Bruce do that because we talked off the air and we both had the same one here. You know what I'm referring to?
No.
Well, that's exactly what this book is about. Its main objective is to enable you. Now, we talked about there's 2 different places in the Big Book that talks about what's the main purpose of the book. There's a place that talks about in one of the introductions. It talks about the purpose of this book. The purpose of this book is to share with you precisely how we've recovered, how all these people have recovered from alcoholism. But the main objective, and this is why I don't want people to get confused, is in step 2. It says its main objective is to enable you to find a power greater than yourself, which will solve your problem.
Yeah, and the method by which they do that is precise.
That's the method, is precisely. And so they show you precisely how to do that. But what a promise to show you, precisely how this power can come into your life and solve this problem.
They say, I like the way you put that. I wouldn't have done that way. That's crystal clear to me.
So again, we're not talking about they, she, it, or they. We're talking about, we're not talking about the ocean. We're not talking about electricity.
Well, if you go back to the step, we're talking about a power that can restore you to sanity.
Yeah.
Not sobriety.
Not sobriety.
So it's something that has to happen, that I think is pretty powerful stuff,
Marv, you mentioned last week that many folks, when they first arrive into the rooms of the 12-step support meetings, for instance, that in this process of becoming willing and all that kind of thing, that they're not necessarily always ready to take this whole thing, lock, stock, and barrel, right? I mean,
Right.
They're hearing stuff sometimes for the first time. Perhaps they've heard it before, maybe out of context, in context, who knows? But what would you think if you walked into the rooms and you heard somebody say that, welcome, we are about helping you discover a power that can help solve your problem. Is that good news?
Well, if I think back to when I first walked into the rooms, I wouldn't have believed him.
Right.
Maybe.
Even though
I'd
you
have
were
been skeptical.
Even though you were searching for help,
Right.
it may have been too good to be true.
Well, I came in a little different than most people. I came in the rooms to support an alcoholic wife in complete denial about my own alcoholism. So that question's a little hard because I was being a good guy.
Oh, okay.
I was there supporting my wife.
And this is not an uncommon thing
No.
for people to come in as support for the other guy or gal.
Yeah. And it took me 6 years, really,
Right.
of continual going to meetings and stuff to finally figure out that I may not know how to spell it, but I are one.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, and actually, I I was on a spiritual road when I went in there. But what I was thinking about when you first asked me the question, I remember years ago, this lady had the hams bear for her power greater than herself.
Oh, the hams.
Bear.
Yeah. What is it? The beer of sky blue waters or something like that? Yeah. The hams bear.
And I was fairly new at the time when I first run into her at the meetings and stuff, and I thought, wow, this is really off the wall, you know. But it goes along with the way I think about this stuff. She wasn't capable at that time to have the idea of God, because listening to her story, she'd never had that availability to it through other people, a church, or whatever.
So she was grasping on to whatever she could. And
yes. Yeah. Years later, I hadn't seen her for a long time. I run into her again at a meeting, and her power was definitely God. Mm-hmm. She had, through experience and time, come to believe in God. So that's kind of where I'm coming from.
So at least in the beginning, she understood that it couldn't be her, even if the hams bear was really her. I mean, if you want to talk psychologically,
yeah.
But she at least she got that piece.
Yeah.
To begin, right, Bruce? That's that word, right? Again, to make a beginning.
Well, as I'm listening to you guys talk, and I hope that we're hearing what Marv is talking about here. It's. I don't think Marv is that unusual, and I do think that there are people that come in here and their God is the hams bear. But one of the most remarkable things about this is, let me ask this question first. I'd like to know if this lady had used the precise method by which to take a look at that.
I don't think I know what the precise method is because everybody's so different.
Okay. It's not that everybody's so different. The precise method is the steps.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Well, it sounds like she may very well have at some point, because
sure,
she actually developed a relationship with the Creator and not the hams bear at some point.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. So here we are, and this woman has that. You know what I mean? And
right.
And I'm of the belief she could start there. If it makes sense to her, she could start there, but she can't stay there.
Right.
See, and she obviously didn't. But what AA has to present, and what we're not doing it because people become meeting reliant, is the steps. You see what I mean? That's the precise method that we have to take a look at this thing. And so if there's people that come to me and they're really confused on this God issue, they're upset with him, and they think because they're upset with him, they don't want to turn their life over to him, and that there's nothing we can do about that. And I says, well, we're going to do the steps around God.
Yeah, you bet.
See, same way as if I'm angry with Marv, I'm going to do the steps around Marv. See?
Right.
Well, let's do the steps around God and find out why we're angry. See, and sometimes when you do that, you understand that it's your own stuff, and you're just putting it on God. You're blaming God. You see what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And that's not that God's not hard to understand. He is. He does some pretty strange stuff in my book.
Well,
but
here
he's also wonderful.
And just so you know, for the people that have, and bless your hearts, thank you. There's been some people that have posted on our Facebook page even more promises than what we've discussed here. And one guy just went on and on and on forever on promises that are associated with step one. And he was right. And I really appreciate that. Mm-hmm. But there's no way in the typed word on a social networking site, you have time to type all that stuff. We don't have time to pack them all in an hour show. So don't misunderstand. We're not by no means touching on every single one. What we want the listener to understand is that each step has promises. And don't limit yourself thinking that the 9-step promises is where there's the only place there's promises. There's promises throughout this book. Well, in number 2 here, I love this. Now, this is conditional. It says, we found that, and this is on page 46 of the big book, we found that as soon as we lay aside prejudice and expression and expressed even a willingness to believe in a power greater than ourselves, here's the promise, we commence to get results. And aren't we result-driven people? Instant gratification takes too long, right?
Well, read the rest of it.
Yes, it says, even though it was impossible for any of us to fully define or comprehend that power which is God.
Hence the hams bear.
Hence the hams bear. Yeah. So we commence, even if we just show a willingness, we commence to start getting results. Perhaps results we never got before. And obviously, this lady had some willingness.
Yes.
So this is the part where I was talking to you about before we before we was on air. So I'd like to read 3 little pieces.
Yes, sir.
On both these pages. It's starting right where we left off, where you finished, Marv. And because I think people are really confused on this thing about your own conception. Well, it's about how you think, what it is, not mine or yours. And we come in here with some pretty strange ideas. The ham's bear. It was a good example. Really good example. I hope you guys hear what Marv is saying here. It's just wonderful. So listen to this. It says, much to our relief, we discovered we did not need to consider another's conception of God. Our own conception, however inadequate, was sufficient to make an approach and to effect a contact with him. Okay? That's pretty good. Now let me go to this next one. It says, my eyes, they're so bad. It says, but if we wished to grow, we had to begin somewhere. So we used our own conception, however limited it was. Next section. It has been repeatedly proven among us that upon this simple cornerstone, a wonderful, effective spiritual structure can be built. You got that?
Wow, that's a promise right there.
See,
Talk about the grace of God.
Yeah.
Yeah. A wonderful, effective spiritual structure can be built.
So here's a lady that comes in, and she picks this ham's beer, and we all think this is funny. But see, she's got this thing going on. She might have some real contempt towards God. Maybe there's something that she's been hurt by or something like that. We don't know. So she'll do the steps around that if she gets into the steps, and she'll take a look at that, say. But what I'm trying to say is that she comes in, she believes that part, but it's a beginning, and then she can grow from that. Mm-hmm. If she's willing to go down this path and take a look at these things, you see what I mean? And do these steps. And upon that, a beautiful structure will be built. I actually was terrified of God and hated him, wanted nothing to do with him. And today he's the most precious thing in my life there is. Nothing can compare.
Yeah.
You see, and I would have really sold myself short. And the reason why I'm such a so adamant about this thing, let's say, is because, see, that's the path I took. That's all I know. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Okay? And sometimes I hear other people, and then I have to tell myself, well, the book does say we don't have the only way. You know what I mean? But I think the AA way is to do the steps and take a look at that. So I think it's beautiful. And I think if she can go to a place and people's not going to laugh at her and they allow her to be there and, you know, and somebody come alongside of her and show her these things, I think it's wonderful.
Yeah, yeah. Before we get to our break, let me touch on there was a fistful of promises between that whole thing that Bruce just shared. This however inadequate, was sufficient, and this is highlighted, sufficient to make an approach and to effect a contact with him. There's a promise there. we began to be possessed of a new sense of power and direction. Wow. We found that God does not make too hard terms with those who seek him. The realm of the spirit is broad, roomy, and all-inclusive. Well, I could camp out. We could do a whole show on that one because I think that's really misunderstood a lot. And so I'm not going to go into that today. But the realm of the spirit is broad, roomy, all-inclusive, never exclusive or forbidding for those who earnestly seek him. It is open, we believe, to all men. That is a promise that God loves all people, and he's open to receive all of them. That's a promise some people never heard. They heard things like, God will never love you. Look what you've done. That kind of stuff. We found ourselves accepting many things which then seemed entirely out of reach. That was a promise that came true for me. I was like, wow, I'm actually changing my thinking. Or I'm not changing, but God's doing it, but my thinking's changing. And then down to what Bruce was talking about, a wonderfully effective spiritual structure can be built. We've got more to talk about. Don't go away. More on the promises associated with step 2 when we return.
Well, when I went to my first meeting, I was really scared. I didn't know what to expect.
A bunch of drug addicts in a room together? Give me a break.
It was really weird. No matter what anybody said, no one seemed surprised. Other people felt the same way.
Well, I've been running alone for so many years, and now I wasn't. You know what I mean?
It is possible to stop doing drugs. The proof's at the meetings. But you got to get there first.
Call Narcotics Anonymous. We can help. 800-TODAY-NA. That's 800-863-2962.
All right, and we returned. All right, so in the studio is Marv and Bruce and myself, and a piece of paper in front of us that outlines many of the promises associated with the second step.
Hey, Monty,
go ahead, Marv.
Can I say something?
Yep.
You guys are going to think this is weird, but as you guys were talking earlier, I'm sitting here thinking about something. One of the things that I've learned about training horses is to take the time. Don't get so engrossed in what you're doing. Let's say you're trying to get a horse to roll over on his hocks, okay? And you're so engrossed in what you're wanting that horse to do, you don't take the time to watch and see if the horse is really trying, okay? And one of the things that I've learned is to take the time. It might be a flick of an ear or a drop, their head drops or something. And as soon as you see that, you give them relief. You don't keep jerking on them or pulling on them or spurring them. You give them relief. It's a reward. And you try to do it instantaneously. So I'm coming to this point. Isn't that kind of what we see in the process, the hams bear, for example? Mm-hmm. That as soon as this lady says to herself, okay, there's a power greater than me, and I'm going to call it the hams bear, God gives relief. It says, okay, I see some try there. You're trying, and this is what I'm going to do. And he steps in, and maybe it's a healing of a relationship, or maybe it's a financial thing that helps him out. But something that God does to say, you got try, and here's your reward. And that kind of brightens them up, and they say, wow, what's going on? How did that happen? And they keep pressing forward. You see what I'm trying?
Oh yeah, that is wow. That is, isn't that something, Bruce? That's. I love the way you put that.
Yeah, I think that is exactly right, and I think.
And the thing about it is, excuse me, Bruce, the person that's involved, whether it be any one of us three or a newcomer or whatever, at the time, it's always hindsight when they look back and say, wow, how did that happen? But at the time it happens, they don't recognize it. Now, to me, that is God's grace. right there. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I just like to.
I'm getting kind of excited here.
Yeah,
that is exciting. That is exciting.
And I wish more people would do that. And I see that. What I like to do is when I look at that is I think our job, Marv, is to pay attention like you're paying attention to the horse.
That's what I was thinking too. We need to be paying attention in order to recognize it.
A lot of power and observation.
Yeah. See, and what we do, if I have something, it's not necessarily my job to go to the rooms and tell this story, you know what I mean, to heal people. That's not what I'm there for. What I'm really there for is to learn to listen, for I can hear him or her, and then I can make an approach to them right where they're at. And they get to get the same comfort from that as you rewarding that horse. You see, but we don't take time to listen. What we want to do is talk.
Yeah.
See, and I'm part of the problem.
Yeah.
I believe in Alcoholics Anonymous. I think Marv is absolutely right. His approach might be a little different, but I think it's absolutely right. And what I'm talking about is his way of describing it.
Yeah.
And
you're right, because we'll sit in our 12-step support meetings and be thinking about how we're going to put our sentence together to share what we think is so wise.
Instead of listening.
And sometimes to actually correct what somebody said. Because we think we're the rescuer and we need to come in there and correct and straighten it out.
Instead of looking to see what we could do.
Instead of listening. And we tell the newcomer to listen to the similarities, not the differences. But we forget that people that have been around a while, we need to continue to do that. It's for a different reason, but it's to be helpful to the person.
The thing I remind myself over and over and over again when I'm in a meeting is I'm there to be of service. And if I don't keep that in the forefront of my thinking, then I'm there doing all those things or trying to correct people or getting upset because they're not following the path I want them to. And it's just nonsense. It's crazy. You know, I'm there to be of service. And if I'm not listening for I can make an approach to the lady with the hams beer thing, well, then how can I be of help to her? How can I be of use to her?
Yeah.
I'm being selfish and self-centered and and prideful, and I'm a jerk. Inside joke, people.
On page 50, it says, there has been a revolutionary change in their way of living and thinking. Tremendous promise. They found that a new power, peace, happiness, and sense of direction flowed into them. Man.
New, not the old stuff.
No.
Yeah, not the drink or the drug.
Here's a really cool one. We hear people talk about this a lot. Wow, man, you got light in your eyes now. Brought luster to tired eyes and fresh courage to flagging spirits. Wow, you look different. Something is changing in you. You've got color back in your face. And may I suggest that many times this can happen in a relatively short period of time. We don't have to take a year per step. That just drives me nuts. These promises are amazing. At number 12 here, it says, he was there. That packs a punch for me. He was there. Talking about God. He was there. Or even more personally, he is here.
Yeah, you got to remember, though, Monty, that when there's people that come in there that aren't as hopeless as some.
That's true.
And the problem with you and me is we don't know who that is.
Right.
And if we don't listen, for we can hear the hopelessness in a person's voice, then we don't know how to approach them. See, and again, it comes back to that, is learning to be, you know what my sponsees did for me? They went out and got an active listening course off the internet and give it to me.
Wow.
Well, that made me sit right up and take notice.
Just the fact that they did that spoke volumes to you, right?
Yes. Because I'm the kind of a person that likes to talk a lot. So I think it's really important to listen where somebody's at, for we could make the approach, and then we can determine on some sort of level if the guy comes in there and he's just been bruised a little bit, he can come to meetings and hang in there, and the fellowship will be profitable to him. But we're looking for this guy that don't know what to do. That's the one we're worried about, if we're killing people or not. You see, and we'll be saying, hey, listen, guy, if you want this, I'll help you get into a detox, and I have a solution to this thing. Because maybe he's wet. You see what I mean?
Right.
Maybe he's dried out, but he's got the shake so bad that people are taking it easy on him, and he just don't know what to do. He just knows he isn't going to make it. See?
Yeah.
And so we walk up to him and we talk to him, and we try to lift him up and assure him, and then we take him down this path.
Which is something that's been kind of lost from what I can observe. The we made the approach mentality. That seems to not be as much as it was. We kind of wait for people to approach us.
AA really grew, and it grew by leaps and bounds.
Right.
And of course, this thing, I don't think Bill and them recognized that was going to happen, that they were, all these people are alcoholics, and we all need help. It's trying to get, we just can't let there are people that just can't come into the meetings and do 90 meetings in 90 days and we expect that they're going to be okay.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and then we get mad at them when they're not.
Yeah. See, so I mean,
Yeah.
Again, I think it's what we have to offer, and everybody has something.
We found the great reality deep down within us. There's another reference to the name of the show, The Great Reality. This stuff that happened inside of me, that the Spirit of God was doing, that I really wasn't doing, that He was doing because I couldn't do it for myself, brought all sorts of promises true for me. It says, if you wish, you can join us on the broad highway. I didn't know I had permission to be part of anything because I had been kicked out of so many things. So that was a promise that came true for me. With this attitude, you cannot fail. We can do a whole show about what that attitude is that helps you not to fail. But with this new attitude, you cannot fail. That's a promise. The consciousness of your beliefs is sure to come to you. Even so has God restored us all to our right minds. Talking about the first folks in this thing. Wow, a restoration to right mind. He has come to all who have earnestly sought Him. There's a promise. He disclosed Himself to us. There's a promise. Rarely have we seen a person fail who has thoroughly followed our path. Or in the first printing, who never have we seen a person who's thoroughly followed our path. I mean, these are things that happen as a result of experiencing this process. And again, they don't all happen necessarily with that step, but they happen as a result of putting this process. It's a process of action. It's a set of principles that are wonderful, but it's more than that. This whole thing is about helping us develop a relationship with this power to help us solve our problem. And I'm going to say this, and I said it off the air to you, Bruce. I'm going to mirror my friend Chris Schroeder. I truly believe that if you're in a 12-step support fellowship, I don't care what the name of it is, that isn't about helping you develop a relationship with a power, because this is about power now, then you're in a bad group. That's just my opinion. You know, maybe you're in the Boys and Girls Club or something. I don't know, but it's not the AA program that fellowship is fundamentally being founded on. If you're teaching anything other than learning to develop a relationship with a power to help you solve your problem, because isn't that the ultimate promise?
I'll let Marv go because I have something I want to say about that.
Yep.
I'll let him.
Are you sure you want me to go?
Yes, you bet.
Yes, we want you to go.
Because I know we're just heating
We don't
up
want you to leave.
Well, with all these promises, once again, sometimes quickly and sometimes slowly,
Yeah.
But just kind of a little, this is just my own quirkiness, but I had a good friend. We rode horses together for years and years and years, and he was one of us, and he would not admit it. And we'd time after time we'd sit by the campfire at night and talk and stuff. And one of the things he said, and this is back up on line 13 where it says, "We found the great reality deep down within us." Well, my buddy used to say that reality is a deception created from the lack of alcohol.
Yeah. I think I would have liked that.
He was a character. I got off base, but and I guess at times I see a lot of these promises going on in my own life, and then it's like I told you at the beginning when I walked in. I just woke up this morning and it was darkness and whatever that word is.
Yeah.
Trepidation or just
it wasn't a life full of promise, right?
What's wrong, And
yeah.
How am I going to get through this day and on and on? And so it's a mystery to me. All these things I know are true, but it's a mystery how my own brain can go off into left field somewhere and come up with all this negative crap.
Yeah.
And so attitude, it mentions attitude in here several times. I probably got a bad attitude, just to be honest about it, somewhere along the line. And in fact, line 15, with this attitude you cannot fail. Well, it's not talking about the kind of attitude I had when I woke up this morning, I'll tell you
That's right. Yeah.
And again, thanks be to the grace of God, I can come back to him, which I did before I came to town this morning, and say, look, I'm losing the battle here. I'm failing. I'm missing the mark. I need you more than I need the very air that I breathe. And turn this thing around.
Yeah.
For me.
Yeah, that's good.
So
that's good.
So that's isn't that also kind of a promise? We can come back to him at any time, but we need the will to do that. We can't just run riot.
Right.
Right. I don't know if I'm in tune with you guys or not, but that's kind of the stuff I'm thinking about.
I get it. Before Bruce shares, I want to say I had to do a little inventory on myself this morning, not wait for the end of my day. I felt like crap this morning physically, and I had to stop and say, all right, what part did I play in feeling like crap? Well, I ate some stuff last night that I had no business eating. And that sounds like a real simple thing. But being a diabetic and stuff like that, Bruce, you can attest to this, that isn't a simple thing. I was at a place last night, a fellowship. It was healthy and everything else, and they had some food, and I fell right into it. And today I'm paying for it.
Yeah.
But, isn't it marvelous? Today I can actually recognize that. I do have a different way of thinking. I would have just said,
heck with it.
Heck with it.
Yeah.
It's no wonder the bigger book refers to us many, many times as sheep.
Yeah.
I can really recognize that myself.
Sheeple. We're sheeple. Bruce?
Yeah. That I like what Marv said, and if you heard what he said is, I need you. I need some help. Well, I think that's true humility. I think that's when we understand what this is about. And I think the other side of that coin, and I'll give you a little quote that a guy I ran around with on the radio, and I just listened to him. I wasn't with him. His name is Vernon McGee. And he made this statement, Marv. He said, pride is an attitude. He called it an attitude that declares your ability to live without God. So the importance of that humility, to recognize that we need something, and go to God and ask him for help is what this thing is all about. It's about an attitude. Mm-hmm. It really, really is, Mm-hmm. And my other way of looking at that, it's on the same line, is people come to me and they're mad with God. And I tell them, well, we're going to take a look at that down the steps. Others come to me and they say, I have a faith and I have a belief and this is what I want to live by, And I tell them, okay, and we do the steps. Same process for each one of them. Mm-hmm. I want them to take a look at that. See, because whatever it was, it didn't work. But I'm not saying God didn't work.
Right.
You see? Mm-hmm. So we take a look at it. So it doesn't matter what they think. It's the same process that I take them down. And it's wonderful.
Yeah.
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 So, and then they get to take a look at it. And people think we have 9,364 ways of doing this. And we don't. Mm-hmm. It's because we are different individuals. And your concepts and the things you've gone through, it's your inventory. You see that we're gonna do, and mine is tweaked. Looks a little different. Marv didn't come from the big city and have 7 sisters and 4 brothers and
sounds like a movie. 7 brides or 7 brothers.
But you see, so it's going to look different, But believe me, it's the same process. And it gets down to the same root cause.
Yeah.
See, that is in the nature of man.
So, listeners, what do you think? Are we too hardcore about this stuff? Or are we too soft? Let us know. Email number 5 will get a reprinted copy of the first edition of the Big Book of Alcoholics Anonymous, courtesy of Take 12 Radio. But listen, you can't listen, you guys. And this is one of my pet peeves about Facebook. For those of you who punish yourself like I do and participate in that, if you read a comment that I put on on Take 12's Facebook page that says, listen to this or watch this, just don't click like. Go watch it. Go listen to it, and then if you like it, click like. Just don't click like because you think it's something you're going to like. Please? That doesn't tell me anything. So listen, if you want a copy of this first edition, this is a reprinted copy now. I can't afford $20,000 and send you a first edition. If you'd like a copy of it, courtesy of us, you have to do more than just like. You have to send me your mailing address and let me know if you think we're too hardcore or we're too soft. I'd just like to know. I think it'd make it for an interesting discussion. And we'll talk a little bit about that next week. We won't have Recovery News in Focus. We'll talk about the results of that poll before we go into our topic. Next week's topic is the promises associated with Step 3. So, my friends, until our next broadcast, this is the Monty Man, along with Marv and Bruce, and we're wishing God's perfect serenity for you.
This has been a broadcast of Take 12 Recovery Radio and KHLT Recovery Broadcasting.
Kitty, 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 kitty.